All right. So we are live and hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. This is probably going to be a very, very short episode of the Apptrepreneur show. I'm not even sure if we're going to talk about anything in particular. We might talk about one topic just to put something there. But yeah, the main point of this and the point of the title, it's kind of a joke, is that we are kind of updating the look of the show. I finally got a green screen. It's been a long time coming, and I kind of spent the night just playing around with it. I did film 3 videos that will be released within the next 2 weeks. Unfortunately, they all have massive visual hiccups, so that's unfortunately a big problem. And now I am testing it out with the live stream, which so far seems to be running with a much smoother experience. So obviously the joke of the title is that Dark Road Run, whose channel I believe is now called the Light Room, he does all this camera and green screen stuff all the time, and so I could really use his help to fix it all, but I know he's a busy person. So anyway, yeah, I think that is going to be the end of this video. That's probably going to be the shortest podcast ever. This could have been a TikTok thing, but I kind of tested it out. So I know how it looks now, and there's only one person, so it's not like we're gonna be talking about so haha, the disappearing hand. So I guess if I move, that's interesting. That's interesting. Maybe I'm a modern day Houdini, like maybe do the like hey, switcheroo, something. I don't know. Now we're just having fun, folks. So anyway, there will not be a live stream Friday night tomorrow. Is it today Wednesday? No, yes, it is Wednesday. There won't be one Friday because of other circumstances going on, but videos. Oh shoot! Greetings, Seven. Hope all is well. Amazon Prime Day as July 12th, 13 turn 55. Well, happy birthday. I'm glad you're 55. Amazon Prime Day. Yeah, I have not participated in a Amazon Prime Day in over 10 years. And I'm so happy I have not participated in an Amazon Prime Day in 10 years. But hey, happy birthday. So there will not be a live stream on Friday. Just going to be too busy. Videos should be returning on a semi-regular basis next week. So that's that. Now I do see that there's 3 people in there. Nose itching. I hate it when the nose itches. So if anyone has any questions, this is kind of going to be a free-flowing live stream, and who knows, maybe something will happen. And if you don't want to ask anything, then we will cut it short early. This is entirely just to test the new green screen. And so, like I said, so far I like the results, even with the disappearing hand trick going on. But it seems to be working better live than it was filming video, so I might have to. Well, hey, Uberman Tampa, haven't talked to you in a while. Thank you so much. Yeah, I've had this background for a while, but I've never been able to actually use it. But I think people are kind of tired of seeing the bed and the dresser, and even though like the Princess and the Frog poster is really cool, in my opinion, most people don't want to see it. So, actually, I should mention a supporter of the show generously, and I mean very generously, bought me this. I wasn't asking for it. They mentioned, oh, you should have like a green screen, and I pointed out, yeah, I would love a green screen, but space is an issue. Money is also an issue. And he was super, super generous, found a green screen that would fit in our room and not intrude upon our life, because the last thing I need is for Katie to be tripping over this at night. And he bought it for me, didn't ask for anything in return. So thank you, Stu. This was a very, very generous gift. The only thing that I'm kind of having some issues with is it does block the light. So maybe you guys can kind of let me know if this is good. I did put a lamp here. But I don't know. It kind of makes me look a little pasty, and for that matter, the heat gets on me. So I don't know. I'm trying to figure that one out. The only thing, even though this does fit, I do know it was designed to be far back, and there's supposed to be lights from a distance. So because of my space, now the light's right here. So I don't know. I'm kind of hedging my bets. Okay, so the light is adequate. Okay, thank you very, very much. If possible, talk to us about an issue that you are passionate about, non-rideshare, about society. And you say no to the extra light. All right, and cool background. Great. So, something that I am passionate about that's non-rideshare related. Thank you, by the way, for asking for a non-rideshare related question. Let me look. Let's see here. Let me see. Let me think about something. So here might be an interesting one. This could be an interesting topic. I'm sure Tampa would have a lot to say about this one. Just trying to. So yeah, maybe we'll tackle maybe I'll talk about this one. Rideshare is dead and needs to rest. Yeah. Right now, the only reason I'm making videos is because it is dying. And it's like, well, now I need to really see it through to the end. Have I done any TaskRabbit tasks? No, not interested. Actually, I've been really focusing I've been really focusing on my writing. I don't want to, writing has actually turned not only therapeutic, but I've finally got, some more places to where I can start making money on writing. So I'm not going to like actually share the links, but you can find me if you look hard enough. But yeah, I'm actually kind of like giving the freelance writing thing like an honest to go shot, like the first time in years, and it might actually pay off now that I kind of have the freedom to do it. I have a video about how to make GIMP keychain. Get me a mold and I'll make you one. Is there a soap shaped like the Uber? Oh, that's what that was for. So yeah, is there a soap shaped like the Uber logo? And get me a mold and I'll make you one. Yeah. Hey, he's got his own business. He's not lying. So okay, so here's an interesting article. Let's just go completely off topic, like passion, but I want to something I'm interested in. Let's do this. And first of all, oh wow, the Disney afternoon background. I did that for another podcast. I guess it's too late to change that now, but what the heck, we will keep it. This opinion piece came out before the pandemic, actually, or just as the pandemic was getting started. And I definitely have issues with this one. Twitter is real life. Elites just pretend it's not. Actually, before we even get started, I can already tell you what the first problem. The subtitle where it says elites just pretend it's not. Actually, elites, I believe, pretend Twitter is real life, but Twitter is not real life. Like, how many active users does Twitter have? How many active users on Twitter? 229 million users. Yeah, that's not real life. And also there's a lot of bot accounts and things like that. But let's take a look at this article. Let's see what what's this guy's name? Charlie Warzel has to say. He is an opinion writer at large. That sounds about right. For the better part of a year, I've been hearing the same refrain. Friends, colleagues, peers, and respected pollsters have cautioned. Twitter is not real life. What they're trying to say is that the political opinions expressed on Twitter don't usually match the opinions of people in America at large, both in intensity and proportion. Most often, it feels like a warning from members of the extremely online media to itself. The 2016 election, specifically the notion that the press and political establishment never thought Donald Trump could win, is the unspoken undertone. Where we live in a bubble, the country is big as nuanced, we won't get fooled again. Also, it should mention there's like a lot of Trump supporters that are not on Twitter, so, I disagree with this. Oh, do tell. In one reading, the Twitter isn't real life mantra is perhaps a laudable attempt at self-reflection by the media and the political elite. There's also a separate, less charitable reading of the phrase as it's deployed by the pundit class, as a clever bit of misdirection intended to make elites seem in touch while they protect their power. The phrase gained traction last spring, aided in part by a Times analyst of polling that suggested a silent on Twitter and moderate majority of Democrats. Quote, the outspoken group of Democratic-leaning voters on social media is outnumbered, roughly 2-1, by the more moderate, more diverse, and less educated group of Democrats who typically don't post political content online, the piece concluded from the data. A few weeks later, my colleague Michelle Goldberg smartly observed a similar, very real disconnect. Quote, when it comes to Democratic politics, Twitter is proving a lot less influential, she wrote. The best example of the phenomenon was former Vice President Joe Biden, who up until Iowa was the Democratic frontrunner. Quote, spending too much time on the platform can be actively misleading about the state of the party, as you can see it in the polling surge of Joe Biden, a man despised by the online left. I agree with that. If you were online, no way was Joe Biden going to win. No way. And, well, we know what happened there. But Twitter is not real life has stuck around even as Mr. Biden has begun to flail. Last fall, New York Magazine's Jonathan Chait lamented progressive Twitter's distaste for center-left candidates. This January, an article in The Atlantic claimed that Britain's own elections had been distorted by a Twitter primary. The Twitter is not real life people have a few solid arguments in their favor. As the Time analyst shows, the politically hyper-gauge and more radical tend to share opinions on Twitter. This is true. Similarly, Pew Research polling from last year showed that those on Twitter are younger and more likely to be Democrats than the general public. Most users rarely tweet, but the most prolific 10% create 80% of the tweets from adult U.S. users. Yes, they do. Still, the notion that Twitter isn't real life is untrue. Okay, do tell. There's the obvious literal sense. Twitter is a real-world platform and is used by very real humans that we know of. That's a joke. Unfortunately, I use Twitter, so, Then there's the notion of tangible impact. Donald Trump's use of the platform for campaigning and governing and acting as assistant editor to the media is the sterling example, but it goes well beyond that. Ask a journalist who has been fired for an old dredged-up tweet or a woman or person of color who has been doxxed, swatted, or harassed and driven from his or her home if Twitter is real life. They'll say yes. Yeah, but that's not the argument that Twitter does not cause real-world consequences. Twitter does have real-world consequences. As the whistleblower pointed out, because of these algorithms, there are politicians who will actually change their policy and support things that they do not truly believe. I have no doubt there's tons of Republicans who do not believe the big lie. I also have no doubt that there are a ton of Democrats who do not believe in defund the police. But because Twitter and Facebook users are very vocal about this, and because their ads won't get pushed if they don't support these things, or maybe they'll get pushed more if they use these arguments, then yes, they will use them. So the argument that Twitter is not real life doesn't reflect the fact that Twitter doesn't have real world consequences. The argument is that the vast majority of people on Twitter do not speak for the vast majority of people in real life. And really, it's an argument for why Twitter shouldn't have real-world consequences. These people who tweet stupid jokes on Twitter and then they have their lives ruined, why should they have their lives ruined? Twitter is not real. It's a website. And really, there used to be this thinking that, yeah, you could hire someone who's a total womanizer, drunk, throws the wildest parties, and likes the most inappropriate of jokes. But if they came in with a suit and tie, who cares? And Twitter changed that. And And it shouldn't have changed that. And by the way, the people who find these people and they try to get them, banned, they don't have real lives. They're on Twitter looking for trouble to stir. It's absolutely ridiculous. In fact, I was just watching before we started this live stream. I was watching, and I'm not going to say who the person's name is because I like the person's channel, but I'm just going to very much disagree with them on this. This person was talking about the upcoming Flash movie and how Ezra Miller, well, he's creating quite the crap storm, if you'll pardon my very, very, very light French. And she said that if Warner Brothers wants to make their money back, they should reshoot the movie. Of course, that ignores the fact that you are now doubling the production budget, and then the movie has to make $800 million just to break even, whereas if they release the movie next year as is, they can hedge their bets. But she says because she's on Twitter and she can see people clearly will not see this movie as if Ezra Miller is in it. And yet there are people on Twitter who said that they would not see Toy Story 4 because Tim Allen was in it. And how'd that work out? And then there were people on Twitter who said because Lightyear was a super progressive movie and Disney allowed Pixar to keep the same-sex kiss in, which, good for them for standing up for the creators' right to do that and standing up to the other country saying you will not let us touch the movies. I'm glad that someone's finally saying we will not cut these movies just to please your delicate sensibilities. But there are people on Twitter who said they were going to make Lightyear the biggest hit of the year because Disney finally had like a very openly gay couple in the movie. And it wasn't just like this background character. It was like a real supporting character. And Twitter did not make that movie a hit. They just absolutely didn't. And then, of course, the whole reshooting thing goes back to like when Kevin Spacey was fired from All the Money in the World, finished a movie. And Warner Brothers decided they're going to reshoot his films. The movie made about $25 million. And that's what it was projected to make even with Kevin Spacey in the movie. So they spent an extra $10, $15, $20 million, whatever it was, to make scenes for a movie that had no more or less interest with or without him in it. So yes, people use Twitter to influence them. When people say Twitter isn't real life, what they're really saying is you shouldn't let Twitter affect real life things, because when you take a step back and you say Twitter isn't real and you ignore it, then you usually find that, yeah, most people don't care. Also, I think a lot of people see The Flash despite Ezra Miller's problems because they just care about a Flash movie. They don't care about who's playing the Flash. Let's continue. There's also something ineffable about Twitter's influence, especially as it pertains to politics around movement building and fandoms. Honest, sustained social media momentum behind candidates does seem to translate into something, even if it's not clear how much to trust it. Take Andrew Yang. Though his campaign sputtered out last week, this old article, keep in mind, he outlasted multiple high-profile governors and senators. His staying power was linked in part to the movement he built across platforms like Twitter. Yeah, but you can see that he had a strong social media presence and it really didn't carry him to the finish line. Establishment pundits and politicos, shocked by his longevity, might have felt different had they engaged with or even observed Yang Gang faithful on Twitter. A better example might be Bernie Sanders, arguably now the Democratic frontrunner. Again, old article. The Sanders movement has been criticized for its intensity on Twitter, which infrequently but occasionally veers into toxic territory. It's actually kind of fascinating to read this article late because of how wrong this guy ended up being. And while analysts dissect the particulars of the Sanders online movement, what's unquestionable is that it exists and is a stand-in for something very real, enthusiasm. Well, yeah, but you also have to keep in mind that enthusiasm is very much trapped in a bubble. People are going to Twitter and they get enthusiastic on Twitter, but do they take it to the polls? Do they actually go door to door and knock on the doors of people who are not on Twitter? You see where I'm going with this. As we've seen so far in the Democratic primary, enthusiasm matters. The gap between hypothetical polling months out before the first primary contest and the genuine fandom-like enthusiasm that might motivate voters to caucus, canvass, or brave the cold to cast their ballots can collapse quickly. No one on Twitter is being encouraged to leave the house. That's why they're on Twitter. They don't want to leave the house. Indeed, as New York Magazine's Eric Levitz pointed out last year, while Twitter may not be real life, neither is what shapes most electoral politics. Quote, major parties' governing agendas aren't set by their rank and file voters in popular referenda, he wrote. Rather, each party's priorities are shaped primarily by its political elites, which is to say, by its most influential elected officials, activists, donors, policy intellectuals, and interest group leaders. Such partisan elites have never been representative of their normie allies. Rather, each party's priorities are shaped primarily by its political elites, which is to say, by its most influential elected officials, activists, donors, policy intellectuals, and interest group leaders. Such partisan elites have never been representative of their normie. I'm sure he's saying something there, but that's a lot, and I don't really get what his point is. Vox's Ezra Klein, Vox, my favorite, recently put it similarly. Political elites have an outsized effect on what actually happens in politics, and they're constantly on Twitter. And we create a politics that looks more like Twitter, even if it's not what the country wants. Well, yes, I've just discussed that. I mean, algorithms, because look, Twitter is a great advertising tool. Don't get me wrong. And they want to reach those voters. And you're right. They are using Twitter because they want to get the word out there. But where Twitter is not real life is that they change their opinions to appease Twitter people because they want them to go out to vote or at the very least mail in their ballot. But the people on Twitter's views don't necessarily align with what people say online. In fact, I'm going to give an even bigger example, the canceling of J.K. Rowling. Now, I don't want to get into the stickiness of J.K. Rowling other than to say that there's a lot of people who are not happy with her. And in some cases, that might be rightfully so. In some cases, maybe there's some misunderstanding. But the thing is, they're looking at Fantastic Beasts 3 bombing as this is a validation that the Twitter mob got her, that Harry Potter is dead and she needs to be fired. And yet that doesn't account for the fact that the Harry Potter book sales are still very good. The movies still sell very well, even on DVD. The streaming, very high. The upcoming video game, tons of pre-orders. People didn't see Fantastic Beasts 3 because people didn't like Fantastic Beasts 2. So, and ironically, probably also because Johnny Depp got fired, and there's a lot of Johnny Depp fans who did not want to see the movie afterwards. So Twitter canceling J.K. Rowling and didn't actually work, but Twitter wanting to get rid of Johnny Depp before we had that trial, and I think more people are in favor of Depp now, that didn't really work out so well. So let's continue. One way to read my Twitter's real-life argument, then, is that elites' opinions aren't in step with America. But it doesn't matter because they're more influential. That Twitter is dominated by political and media elites who have outsized power, and that the narratives they write 280 characters at a time dictate our political reality. There's a slice of that argument that's true. The conversation that takes place on Twitter often programs the media, that commandering of broad voter attention sets political agendas and grants certain candidates outside power. I agree with that. I do agree with that. But the effect on elites is much more influential. Let's start this over. But the effect on elites is not more influence. Thanks to places like Twitter, I'd argue that the elite's power to create political narratives and champion specific political movements has waned. Politicians who build organic online movements and flood the zone with content that's both proactive and reactive doesn't need to woo the media or politicos' attention. They command it all at will. Donald Trump and the pro-Trump media have used this to their advantage, while left-leaning politicians like Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez use a similar attention commandeering tactics, although to different ends. Mike Bloomberg, a candidate who has yet to appear on the ballot in early primaries, is largely using Twitter to appear to a top-tier contender for the Democratic nomination. That didn't work out very well. Take the primary process, which is fueled by polling, but also by a great deal of punditry. If you were honest about it, you'd admit that the media itself drove much of this process, BuzzFeed News' Ben Smith wrote about in early part of the election cycle. But as Mr. Smith notes, that process didn't stick in 2016. Trump supporters weren't taking their cues from analysts or taking much interest in the traditional vetting from the mainstream media. The more I looked through the Twitter is not real life conversation over the past year, the more it became clear that the refrain emanated most frequently from those whose influential status is at risk. Each Twitter is not real life piece seemed to perform extremely well on Twitter, especially good point. especially among a kind of centrist political and media elite who bristled at the extreme opinions of far right and far left-leaning Twitter folks. This former Senator Claire McCaskill tweet with a link to the original Times piece signaled her approval of its analyst. Ms. McCaskill, a moderate Democrat, recently said on MSNBC that America is generally not as far along the left line as Bernie and Elizabeth Warren, despite Senator Sanders' current frontrunner status. The official Twitter account of Morning Joe, a favorite show of the Beltway elites that frequently tax to the center, also posted the piece, as did scores of legendary political journalists, usually with some disclaimer suggesting this might be hard to read, but it's worth it. The longtime Washington pollster Frank Luntz tweeted the piece numerous times throughout the spring and summer, including before the first set of Democratic debates in June. One thing to keep in mind as you see internet pundits live scoring tonight's hashtag Dem debate, Twitter is not real life, Mr. Luntz wrote. Even Pete Buttigieg, currently the leader of the moderate wing of the Democratic candidates, I have a signed book by him, has lamented he, quote, just might get canceled on Twitter. The one thing I am learning is just how much daylight there is between what has currency on social media and what I'm getting asked about when I'm on the ground, he said in an interview with the Times editorial board. I would not be surprised if it continues to be the case that doing what I view to be the right thing as president is not just politically costly in general, but may cost me the hearts and minds of those who are disproportionately represented online. Interestingly enough, both Pete Buttigieg for MA and San Francisco for Pete Buttigieg Twitter accounts tweeted the Times analyst piece on Twitter opinion, not lining up with broader American political sentiment. Well, I think the election of Donald Trump kind of proved that there was a little bit of a disconnect between the real world and Twitter. The cries of Twitter is not real life becomes a filter bubble of their own, a way to assuage those who traditionally had great influence over creating political narratives and who rarely had to compete with dissenting voices, that they are still in touch with the body politic. I don't know if that was a spelling error, but okay. And that those loud, unfamiliar voices causing all that ruckus aren't representative of a broader, truer lived experience. It's possible, of course, that many things are true at once, as they did about the radio or television before Twitter. Critics and evangelists opine about new forms for public discourse as either deeply corrosive or utopian. Twitter's aspirations as the global town square are utopian, while the day-to-day experience of politics and the platform veer quickly towards corrosion. What's impossible to ignore, though, is the entrance and elevation of millions of new voices into the daily political conversation. It's not perfect, but the end product of those new voices, coalescing communities, and sustained enthusiasm is very real. For politics, Twitter is a living nightmare. It's overly simplistic and too prone to flattened discourse and protracted, useless fights. It's full of in-jokes and cliques and factions and a small number of people who are too loud and too rude. It's messy as hell with glaring problems that don't have a whole lot of good fixes. Sounds a lot like real life, so I'm not gonna lie. I kind of agreed with more of that than I thought I would. I do believe that Twitter does influence politics. I do believe it influences real life. But again, I'll say that when people say Twitter isn't real, what they're really saying is that Twitter should not be affecting real life because it isn't real. I mean, I remember like 3 days after the war in Ukraine started, a bunch of Russian bots got together and decided to make hashtag I stand with Vladimir Putin trend. And if you looked at most of these accounts, and I was awake when it was, and I was just looking at all the accounts, like who would tweet this? And they showed these images and they had these long posts. First of all, they were all spelled correctly. So that immediately made me suspicious of them. But I'd always go and I'd look, and most of the accounts were no more than a couple of weeks old. So Twitter is definitely affecting real life, but it shouldn't affect real life because it's not real. It's easily manipulative, and the algorithm favors the most outraged tweets, and the more common sense people, well, they get shuttered out. I mean, make no mistake, defund the police started as a Twitter thing. And while you have people backtracking saying defund the police means that, you know, you pull back support from the police and stuff like that. No, make no mistake. On Twitter, defund the police meant take it down, get rid of it, dismantle it. They're not doing anyone any good. It was hashtag during the George Floyd protests. And yet the thing is, even though I think most of us were very, very upset about what happened to George Floyd, most people did not agree that the police need to be abolished. It just needed to be reformed. Anyway, okay, so there's a non-rideshare opinion. And let's see, we have some comments. Let's see here. Why don't you make some collab Disney video with Mark since you're both fans? That's not a terrible idea. I might reach out and maybe we'll do this. Not this guy. Uh-oh. So you've heard of this guy before, have you? Well, Twitter, millions users and 100,000 Dylans. Oh, Dylan. What the heck is Dylan doing these days? Is he still grifting people? My goodness. Let's see here. That's because bots are trying to get American Upward. Yep, I agree. Also, it should be noted, like, there's a lot of Chinese accounts, and they're trying to do the same thing. Let's see here. What are these man bun pre-striving? I'm not going to finish that one. Hey, repair your PC. Let's see here. This guy was joking. Netflix waits for the war to win so that they can make series about... Really? Wait, did that guy actually... Okay, you know what? I have to stop and I have to... Let me look up this guy. What the... So... Excuse me. So this guy definitely is so his most recent article is remote work is failing young employees. Oh, really? Let's see here. Yeah. How many fact checkers do they have? What? That's inside the battle between Biden and Facebook. I can't stop watching coronavirus vaccine videos. Why? Just get vaccinated and move on. It's a shot. I have never thought so. I know people debate this. It's just a shot. Except for the flu shot, which my doctor specifically said not to get because I had Guillain-Barré as a kid. I've never really given much thought about shots, and I certainly see no reason to watch videos about getting shots. It just, unless you've got like a fetish, I don't know why you do that. How to talk to friends and family who share conspiracy theories. So I've unfortunately had to deal with that, and I find the best thing to do is to basically just not talk those conspiracy theories. I mean, the thing is, people always act like once you know someone has a certain political opinion that you just can't talk about anything else. No, that's not true. Like my brother-in-law, I think his politics are whacked. So you know what I talk to him when I talk to him? Talk about when I talk with him? Talk about the Shaman King reboot. I talk about Dragon Ball Z. I talk about anime. Like, anime's non-political, and if they are political, they're not talking about American politics. Some of these look interesting. Mark Zuckerberg is the most powerful unelected man in America. Yep, I could probably agree with that. The post office mess is meant to exhaust you. Don't let it. I don't know what that's about. So, okay, I can definitely see why some people probably don't like this guy. He's a little strange. Cassidy Campbell. Yeah, that's what you were. Cassidy Campbell. Who's Cassidy Campbell? Let me see here. Well, let's see here. He's all right. So we're gonna go down a rabbit hole, folks. I guess we're gonna. Hopefully, I don't regret this. This is Cassidy Campbell. Let's see here. He's on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I create original comedy content on various social media platforms such as YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, where I play numerous characters, such as my most famous ones being the Wanksta spoiled rich kid, redneck, and flamboyant character, and many more. Okay, I don't know why you brought this guy to my attention so far. 1.6 million subscribers. Well, good for him. Asking people to buy me diapers, then paying for all their groceries if they say yes. Asking people for gas money, then giving them a free Tesla if they say yes. Asking people for gas money, then filling up their gas if they say yes. Oh, okay, I see what he is. He's one of those, you do a good deed for these people, and then you, okay, I know exactly what this is. So okay, whatever. I mean, if you want to, and I didn't even share okay, so anyway, we'll stop doing that one. You know what I'm gonna do? Let's see. Does anyone know Dylan's last name? I completely forgot. Let's see here. Rideshare Hub. He's still making his. Oh shoot! You're kidding me. He's still. Wow. He's still making videos. I mean, although it kind of shows that he's really fallen. 193 views, 516 views. I mean, I have a very similar problem, not gonna lie. That's why the channel tries to diversify. I mean, I know some people say like, hey, your channel hasn't grown since you left Uber. It's like, well, it wasn't growing when I was talking about Uber either. The end of Lyft. He's still making these videos. Now, strike nationwide, deactivated by Lyft, end of Uber. Uber launches new app. A bunch of shorts here. Deactivated by Uber. I'm done. Nice to know he was deactivated by Uber for the 17th time. Why so many Uber and Lyft drivers are quitting? Because they're not getting paid. It's not that. Oh, the Uber faces a new lawsuit. Breaking. Head of Uber rides just quit. Just in, Uber lowers rates for drivers. That used to be a type of video that would really get a lot of people to watch, but not. Uber passenger tries to pick up driver, and that's obviously a skit because he doesn't. Uber deactivated me. False report again. Uber, what are you doing? Your car breaks down. Like, dude, the grift is over. The grift is over. I don't know what it kind of scares me that he's still, let's see. Let me check out his Twitter. I know you guys can't see his Twitter right now. Trying to see if his so he still has a Facebook thing. Wow, I can't believe he's still doing it. This is wow. Has anyone watched any of his videos in a while? Is he still
What's up, everyone? How's
the videos deactivated by Uber?
Hey, everyone.
Let's see here. Unfortunately, we can't see the dislikes. Well, I can if I install the thing, but let's see here. Temporarily, Uber needs manners. Always sanitize. Okay, brother, how many times can Uber deactivate you? Yes, you personally. Every day now, you say for the past week at least. Clickbait. Yeah, exactly. Skip to 102. What's over? I'm about to unsubscribe. Stop recycling your videos and topics. No.
Hey, everyone. How's it going? Welcome back.
Yeah, unsubscribe. You don't need to clickbait. That's why I give this a thumbs down. I unsubscribe. See ya. Yeah, why not? Let's just do this a thumbs down here. Oh, look, there I am. There I am. All right. Anyway, enough of that. Let's see here. I haven't watched Dustin in a long time. Dustin has still been by far the most successful of us all, though. He figured out that really the future of Uber videos wasn't in commentary or advice or news. It was watching Uber drivers get the crap beat out of them and yelled at, Jerry Springer style. Yes, respect to Mandy. How long has that been? Shoot, I think it's been more than 3 years since we lost her. I mean, I hope that she'd be happy that people were finally moving on from Uber, but I don't know. Yeah, I miss my friend. She was fun to talk to. Well, this little 3-minute video turned into 40 minutes. Is there anything else we should discuss? Maybe try to make this into an hour. I don't know. But I would say, and you're gonna definitely see with the videos next week, that the green screen worked better for this live stream than it did with the videos. So anyway, I think that's where we're going to end that. I got this tested out. It works. So anyway, folks, thanks for joining me. With all due respect to Dark Road Run, hope you're doing fine. Good out there, buddy. And drill, comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. As always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.